beautiful, isn't it? And painful. And it's not only war that can make us forget who we are and where we come from. In the wake of the recent rhetoric about immigration in this country, I realize that many Americans have forgotten who they are and where they come from. I find it especially ironic that many politicians and citizens in Oklahoma are attempting to make our state's anti-immigration laws the toughest in the nation. I mean, don't we refer to ourselves as the Sooner State? We glorify our boomer and Sooner past. And of course, who are the boomers and Sooners but people who illegally crossed the border into Oklahoma territory when it was unauthorized and unlawful to do so? So now the state that venerates its own history of illegal entry with great pride is trying to become the state that is least hospitable to unauthorized immigrants. It's easy to forget who we are and where we come from. Oklahoma also prides itself on being a Bible Belt state. And our politicians regularly flout their Christian credentials. Yet when we look at the Bible, we find dozens upon dozens of examples of God commanding believers to treat aliens and foreigners who live among them well. These aren't some of those esoteric or particularly complicated passages either. For example, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verses 17 through 19, did you bring your Bibles this morning? That's all right, I'll just read it for you. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the alien, giving him food and clothing. And you are to love those who are aliens, for you yourselves were aliens in Egypt. And in Leviticus chapter 19, verses 33 through 34, we read, when an alien lives with you in your land, do not mistreat him. The alien living with you must be treated as one of your native born. Love him as yourself. And in the Gospel of Matthew, verse 35, in the Christian scriptures, when Jesus says, when I was a stranger, you invited me in. The word stranger here is the Greek word xenos, which literally means foreigner or an alien, an immigrant. When the people asked, who, Lord, when was it that we did invite you in and take care of you? And Jesus replies, I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters, you did for me. Now, not only does the Bible instruct us in very explicit and plain language to be hospitable to strangers and aliens, but besides that, the Bible's prophets and heroes like Abraham and Sarah were immigrants themselves who journeyed to foreign lands and became resident aliens. Joseph, the son of Jacob in the Bible, was a detained alien in Egypt who eventually gained legal status. And through working there, he ultimately was able to feed his family back home and eventually brought his family to live with him in Egypt. Moses was also a resident alien from the time of his birth. Then Moses spent his adult life leading his people on an immigrant's journey across the desert to a land of promise and hope. And when we look at Jesus' genealogy, we find Ruth the Moabite, Bathsheba the Hittite, and Tamar and Rahab the Canaanites, all aliens who are part of Jesus' family tree. Not only that, as soon as Jesus was born, he quickly became a political refugee along with Mary and Joseph. They were forced to flee their homeland and seek asylum to avoid persecution by Herod. Yet Jesus never forgot who he was. He spent his life and ministry preaching a message of radical hospitality to the outcast, the poor, and those who were despised and rejected by his culture. Yet somehow, the politicians and so many citizens of this state who claim to be followers of Jesus and who declare devotion to the Bible have lost touch with who they are and where in spirit they come from. Those who immigrate to the United States today, even those coming illegally, are human beings, first and foremost. They are fathers and mothers and children. But you wouldn't know that listening to the AM radio talk shows. Yet, much like the heroes and heroines in the Bible, and much like many of our ancestors, those who come to this country are often seeking political asylum or a way out of a desperate situation. But their humanness is lost when they're given labels like illegals and aliens. Suddenly, they're no longer mothers and fathers and children. They become those illegals. It's important that we remember the humanity of those we're talking about, of those we're locking up, blocking out, or even those we're bombing. Here's a story from a couple of years ago about real people. 15-year-old Jesus Dominguez was upset when his mom decided to go to the United States. Like many teenagers, Jesus did not want to leave his friends. But being the man of the house, he couldn't let his mother and sister walk alone, so he went. As reporter Claudine Lamonaco wrote in the Tucson Citizen newspaper in last July, "I wanted to stay home," he said. Home is the village of San Martin, Sombrerete in Zacatecas. Jesus' father works in Texas, and it was hoped that their family could reunite. They crossed with Jesus' 7-year-old sister, Nora. When Lucrecia Dominguez became ill on the third day of the journey, the group of village friends that they were traveling with continued on with Nora. Jesus stayed behind to be with his mother. "She kept begging me to go on without her, but I couldn't leave her," Jesus said. When his mother lost consciousness, he set off alone to find emergency help. 3 days later, Border Patrol agents found him lost and disoriented in the desert. According to Vivian Pettijohns, who wrote Jesus' story for E Pluribus Media, although Jesus was dehydrated, in shock, suffering from heat exhaustion, and terrified about his mother's status, the agents just gave him a little water and then left him at the federal lines in Nogales, a practice known as expedited removal. Once there, Jesus placed a frantic call to his grandfather for help. Now, Pettijohns contrasts this story with that of 23-year-olds Daniel Strauss and Shanti Sells, who during that same month, she writes, woke up in their camp on the dark desert floor in another part of the Sonoran Desert and prepared to face the dawn of a blistering July day. They conferred with another team in their open desert campsite and double-checked the communication equipment that linked them to a network of volunteer medical professionals. These teams, they work for No More Deaths, one of several humanitarian organizations committed to ending the suffering in the Sonoran Desert. Strauss and Sells spent the entire day hiking in 115-degree heat through dry washes and trails in search of people who are sick, injured, and lost, or those who are dying of hunger, thirst, or heat exhaustion. People like Jesus and his mother. When the teams find them, they call emergency medical providers for instructions on how to proceed with treatment.